when the pathology comes back about 4 or 5 days later, shocked that it was metastatic melanoma. That made me officially stage 4. I am Casper the Ghost. I never get in the sun. So up until about age 45, everything was absolutely perfect. Had a good job, or have a good job. I work for the health system actually here in Charlotte, North Carolina. No financial troubles, friends and family, no major sickness. Then around the age 45, the wheels fall off of everything. I just happened to wake up in the bed one evening, and maybe use the restroom or something, and just happened to feel my neck, and there was a lymph node here in my neck that was swollen. I mean, pretty swollen. You could definitely feel it. And I thought, well, that's odd. Is that something? So I had my wife feel it, and she's like, yeah, I feel something there. So I went to my primary care doctor, who felt it and said, well, it moves. It's not necessarily hard. It's probably nothing. Let's watch it for a month and do some antibiotics, probably an infection. Maybe you had a COVID or something. So I'll go back in a month, and it is still there. It's grown slightly. And actually not at that visit, but probably a week later, I noticed another lymph node beside it. This was right around the holidays, right around Christmas. So about a week before Christmas, he ordered an ultrasound on that lymph node. The ultrasound came back suspicious. I'd never heard of a fatty hilum or helum or whatever that term is, but guess what? You want one in your lymph node. You don't want it not there if they do an ultrasound. I get referred to a head and neck surgeon at the Levine Cancer Institute here in Charlotte, which I have nothing but high praise for. I go in to see the surgeon. He feels them, does some ultrasound work just with his portable ultrasound. He's like, yeah, this probably isn't anything. It could be, but it's probably not. We can either watch it or we can go ahead and biopsy it. And my wife, who is with me, is like, no, you biopsy it today. And then when the pathology comes back about 4 or 5 days later, shocked that it was metastatic melanoma. Shocked for several reasons. I mean, the provider was awesome. He even said, look, I'm so sorry. I did not prepare you for this. I did not think this was anything serious. The surprising part about it being melanoma, I am Casper the Ghost. I never get in the sun. When I go to the beach, I'm the one that lays by the indoor pool with my book and my towel and stuff. I'm not a sun heat person. I had a mole on my scalp, my very bald scalp, and it has been there probably 20 years, maybe even 25 years, as far back as I can remember. It's been looked at by physicians. It's been looked at by dermatologists. Nobody ever thought it was anything serious. It was not miscolored. It was not misshapen. But after they identified the melanoma in my lymph nodes, then the question was, okay, well, where did it come from? And I said, I bet you I know exactly where it came from. I bet it was this spot on my head. So I went back about 2 days later after the pathology came back for them to biopsy the spot on my head. And sure enough, that was the primary melanoma spot. He stages me out, and I'm 3C. And so he says, we really need to do neoadjuvant therapy, or we'll do ipi-nivo immunotherapy for 2 doses prior to surgery. Because by doing it prior to surgery, they can then see if it was effective in the pathology when they take those lymph nodes out. I have my surgery. Everything goes well. No real complications from the surgery. They removed 39 lymph nodes, with 3 of them having melanoma, the 2 we knew about, and 1 had some microscopic melanoma. They took the spot off of my head. Then the pathology comes back, and that was a body blow because it was not effective. It just wasn't effective. It did not have any effect on the cancer. So then that brings up the question, okay, well, what do we do? But we did decide just to watch and wait. So that was May. So I have clear scan. Every 3 months, I'm getting a PET scan. Every 6 months to 8 months, getting an MRI for my brain. So we go all the way to February, and a spot shows up in my arm, kind of like in my arm fat here on the right side. So that shows up. We watch it for 3 months. It continues to grow, but it's where it can be removed, so I have surgery to remove it. I'm hopeful maybe it's not melanoma, but it comes back melanoma. So from this point forward, try not to get my hopes up when these things happen, to be disappointed. So it was removed. It was melanoma. That made me officially stage 4. Then another spot shows up in my chest. I could feel it. This one actually was very close to the surface, and it actually bruised on the surface. So I thought, oh, I've hit myself or bumped something. This isn't melanoma because the other ones didn't bruise. Go in, they surgically remove it, and unfortunately it turns out to be melanoma as well. But up to this point, again, I try to look at the blessings in this, as serious as it is. Up to this point, every occurrence I had was in a surgically removable spot. So far, it's not been on any major organs or anything. So these were all pretty much subcutaneous in the skin, could be removed. At the same time, they identified this spot, which they removed because it was up here close to the surface. A really small spot showed up in the back of my shoulder. So we watched it. Well, the May scans come around, and it is grown. It's glowing brighter on the PET. And there are two other very small spots in the fat of my back. But at this point, my doctor was of the mindset, look, there's no point in continuing to play whack-a-mole. I mean, we've got to try something systemic, see if we can get a handle on this. So he lays out my options. I mean, again, he is fantastic. He studies this stuff. And he says, okay, we can go with kind of the next level immunotherapy. He said, or we can go ahead and get you in the pipeline for TIL therapy. Your spot in your shoulder is big enough, it would qualify. He said, we could try targeted therapy. Now, back to not winning the lottery on some of this stuff. I do not have the BRAF mutation as most people would think of it. They consider you BRAF positive, and it opens up a whole nother line of therapy, which is pretty effective, just maybe not for a long time. Well, that wasn't really on the table for me because I'm BRAF V whatever R. But he said that was an option to try. He said, or he didn't recommend it, but there were a few people that did have some luck with chemo. But there was this clinical trial that is still ongoing today. So I get on to the clinical trial, and back to just having such great luck with all this stuff. I was randomized to the normal group, so I didn't get the clinical trial drug. Started the treatment in June. Treatment's going great. We get to August and have our scans, and the two spots in my back fat, kind of down near my hip, had decreased in size, but the one in my shoulder had still increased in size. 3 more months of treatment, so I've had 6 treatments once a month. We get the scans in November, and no evidence of disease. Fantastic. I'm ready to cut a flip. I mean, it's so exciting. Spot in the shoulder's gone, or it's still there, but they say it's more scar tissue, that it's basically melted away. The ones in my kind of back hip area are gone. So that's all wonderful. We're just thrilled about that. However, they did notice a lymph node under my arm that was unusually large. But my white blood cell count, my eosinophils were high, and they were a little higher than my physician was comfortable continuing treatment. So he decided to hold treatment during the month of November to see if that came back into line. Thought it could be inflammation or something. So I go back in December, have another chest CT. Well, that lymph node has grown. But he did say it would be unusual for that lymph node to be growing with cancer and your other spots disappear. Very possible, but unusual. So they get me scheduled in January and basically take that lymph node out. They just go into the one-day surgery, take it out, and actually I took out a cluster of 5 lymph nodes that were kind of clustered together. We wait on the pathology. Again, I'm trying not to be overly optimistic because every time I get my hopes up that it's not melanoma, it has been melanoma. Well, it came back that it was not melanoma, which, fantastic. It was inflamed lymph nodes, which actually could be a potentially good sign because it means my immune system's revved up trying to fight this cancer. So I get a full set of scans in February last month, and everything is basically no evidence of disease. So that's great. The lymph node wasn't anything. I'm on cloud 9, feeling as good as you can feel. But literally about 2 weeks ago, I wake up, my face was swollen, my eyes were swollen, they were weeping, and it was just tremendous swelling. And my first thought was, my gosh, I got to quit eating. Look how much weight I've gained. And my wife's like, you didn't develop 3 chins overnight. There's something going on here. And sure enough, what happened a day or so later after that swelling is I started getting short of breath upon exertion. Went to see my provider. Again, I was short of breath. He did, of course, the normal blood work he would do, held the infusion. As we now kind of get to where my treatment plan is today, no more treatment. I'm coming off the clinical trial. There's a chance with that durable response, with just this 8 months of therapy, that I may, have a durable response for years and not have a recurrence for some time. Or I could have a recurrence in May. It is so unpredictable. The one thing I will say about this entire process that takes some real adjusting to, especially kind of in these early stages with continued recurrences, is I live my life 3 months at a time, which is very odd to say, but it affects how you plan your life, how you try to live your life. I try to be better to people probably than I used to be, just because it really does impact the way you look at life when you know that, we all know we're going to go, but maybe if you kind of see your stop sign coming a little sooner, it makes you think about things. The other thing I'll say, my chart and online portals, I have gone 180 on that. At the beginning, I opened that portal up as soon as any result would hit, and I would read it. Then after that first recurrence, it was a couple of, my oncologist is very good about trying to schedule everything together. It's kind of like PET scan in the morning, labs at lunch, see him in the afternoon. So it's all kind of done together, which is awesome. But a couple times, the scheduling doesn't work out that way. And I had a PET scan and didn't see him for 2 or 3 days later. And that's when I had the recurrence. And of course, I was just in pieces upset about it. So after my next one, I looked at my chart. I have now turned off the notifications from my chart. I wait and talk to the doctor about it, whether it be pathology, whether it be, I will still look at blood work and some things like that. But any major scans, I just wait and I let him give me the news and talk to me about it. Because if it's good news, we can celebrate it. If it's bad news, he can get right into what the plan is. There are new frontiers in medicine, and that's my thought. If I can stay in remission for a few years, who knows what the next big invention is? It might be a cure.